My key thing is with fruit tree pruning is not to be frightened of it, just to get on and do it. Your mistakes will grow out. You know, don't worry about it too much. It all grows back. You know, trees kind of become more vigorous because of it. Okay, it's a job I have to do every year. Is summer prune my cordon apple trees. But it's far better to prune them in the summer. Encourages fruit in spurs, which is what we're after really of a cordon tree. You can see mine grow like crazy. We've got really good land here. I probably should have gone for a more dwarfing rootstock on my cordons. But that said, they do produce nicely. They produce a small amount of high quality fruit, which is I really, really like. Got 32 varieties down here on this kind of run of garden, so it works really well. People get a bit tied up about training fruit, and I think the key is just to go at it quite heavy. I want to kind of just be leaving the spurs. So you want to prune towards the end of summer. They say you start from about mid-July. I never end up doing it then. Kind of mid-August, late August, early September. It's kind of normally when I end up doing it. It all seems to be fine. You don't want to leave it too late. You don't want to do it too early. What you don't want to do is get lots of regrowth, which is what happens if you do it too early. So about now, this is the end of August, is fine. Probably should have done it a few weeks earlier. Some say it should be a few weeks before your fruit ripens to let the sun to it. My fruit down here will ripen all at different stages. Some's ripe now, some won't be ripe till the end of October. So I'm going to do it all at once. You can see I've got quite a bit of top growth on it. So that's more to do with the rootstock, I think, and kind of putting it up there. So it needs all taken back, and what I'll do is I'm going to take it back on each kind of spur where the leaves are. I'll take it back and leave one or two of the leaves on there. Not too fussy. You want to try and take it to kind of like a node point. And what I will do as well, I'm going to do is I do quite fast because there's a lot to do down here. When I first planted these, I thought, oh, summer pruning's easy, isn't it? It doesn't take long, 10 minutes and you're kind of done. Now I've got these trees which are nearly 10 years old. It takes a lot longer to do. But I will also start to thin some of the fruit in spurs now. Sometimes they have a real heavy clump of spurs of fruit where fruit will grow, and the fruit won't grow very well if it's all together. So you kind of want to thin that out as well. So you kind of just play it by ear a little bit, thin the tops down, try and make sure we're keeping this growth down the bottom, because it's quite nice. I've still got growth down the bottom, although it doesn't fruit very well down the bottom on some of them now. So it's just a case of going at it quite heavy, not worrying about it too much. So we're going into the new growth each cut I'm doing at the moment. You can see we're going to make sure that we're cut into where a leaf point grows to. So imagine that's what we're leaving on the tree. Got that little bud there being left. And we're leaving kind of one or two. And like I said, you can take it back harder sometimes, remove some of the spurs, and sometimes go a bit easier. You can control the growth a bit. So if you've got a tree that's not growing very well, you can kind of lift it up away from 45, and that can actually help it kind of grow a bit stronger. And if it's growing too strongly, you can lower it down. It'll put more growth into the side shoots, which we prune off. So you have ways of controlling the growth as well with cordon trees. It's quite good fun, quite a nice thing to do in your garden and mess about with. And no, you can't get it too wrong. Yeah, the worst thing you can do is not prune it every year. That is a bad thing. But other than that, I think you're kind of laughing really. Just go at it. If you get it wrong a few years, you'll notice your mistakes, and in a few years' time, you're just back there again. On a younger tree, you might just leave it to 3 points, like leaf nodes that you leave on, because it's older and there's loads of fruit and spurs in this. 1 or 2 is fine. All looks a bit too much to start with, but once you start getting into the tree, it's not so bad. If you don't prune at a leaf node, what will happen, so say with this piece here, say I was to prune that there, and you've got that distance there, that will die off. It's just not healthy for the tree. Whereas if I prune that next year, that will grow away, or you can see that's a leaf bud for the future there anyway. And in the winter we can go and have a look and see the difference between fruiting and leaf buds really, really easily. Okay, you see here it's really rather congested, and rather than prune all the top off, I've kind of got to it so I can see it. I think it's as well to take that off. Now obviously I need to cut it without shaking the trees too much, but I think I can, we'll take that whole piece off there. Leaving a nice clean wound. Oh, it's quite a bit to take off, but it'll regrow. And it just thins out these tops a bit. They're just getting a bit carried away. And even though that's got quite a few bits of what would fruit, that's made that cordon a lot more manageable. This one has crept down, and I'm not going to try and lift them up now, even though they're kind of falling down a little bit. I'll wait till the winter and lift them up then. So I try and move stuff around too much now, I'm going to knock off too much fruit. So I think it's just a case of thinning out the branches. Some of these are a little bit long as it is. They need taking back, kind of recreate the spurs a little bit, but they're not too bad. We can crack on now to the next one. This little one down here, this is a sunset. This is really, really tasty. Really, really nice apple. And they're nearly ready actually. So they should be some of the next ones we start munching on. Nice and easy to harvest. Still a few branches to take off it. And you can see what happens with your cordons. As they get bigger, you end up taking a lot more from them. So, got quite a bit there. We can lighten this up as we go, make it look a lot better. Obviously I could make these go a lot higher. They kind of, you know, they're about 8 foot long as it is, but only 6 foot high because they're on the angle. Could make them go higher, but it means I've got to use a ladder then to prune them, which kind of adds a hell of a lot of work. So I don't really want to do that if I can help it. That's cool. So it's long past nesting time. How cool is that to see in your little hedge of hook cordons? Nice little bird's nest. So here's a really good example of where I'm opening it up around the fruit, and it's putting, I can get more light to the fruit then, and it can ripen better. Without looking at my chart, I can't tell you what apple that is, but it's going to benefit from a bit of sunshine if we get any in this summer. You can see it's all the way up here. You see all this fruit in here. There you go, look how much more light that fruit has got now to ripen and get these last rays of kind of the autumn sunshine. I'm really pleased with that. So that's done 1/2 of 4 trees. I just got to go the rest of the way down there. The beautiful thing with this is it doesn't matter if you miss some, you can get them in the winter. There's only one wrong time of year to really prune a tree, and that's as the sap's rising. The rest of the time you're absolutely fine. I mean, as that young growth comes up, you can literally pinch it off between your thumbnail and your finger, and you're absolutely fine to do that. But doing it this time of year means that you're kind of preventing that regrowth. It's going to get killed by the frost. Just gives the trees a bit more of a chance to kind of put the energy into the right places. You see, as we go down here, I've got some great looking fruit. Just needs a bit of sunshine. Putting these cordons in was a bit of an investment. Especially when we first moved here, we didn't have huge amounts of money. There was an apple company that did a bit of a special offer. If you bought over 25 apple trees, you got it at wholesale price. But I have also grafted a lot myself, and once you learn to graft, it's dead easy to do. It costs you just a couple of pounds for the rootstocks from a reputable source, or you can start to grow your own, and you can pick up different bits and pieces from different people, different scion wood, and collect your varieties that way. So we've got over 70 varieties here now, and it's not cost huge amounts of money, just a bit of time for doing something that's quite pleasurable, to be honest with you. Really quite enjoy it. The one key thing when you're planting cordon apple trees, well, there's a few key things, probably worth going into a separate video for it, but it's to make sure you get a spur bearer. If you get a tip bearer, what we're doing now is literally cutting off all the tips for next year. So if it's a tip bearer, it's not going to crop as a cordon. Even partial tip bearers I'd kind of avoid. There's some trees I'd avoid as well, like Bramley. Doesn't matter what you do with it, doesn't matter what rootstock you put on it, it grows like stink. Don't put a Bramley in your cordon apple trees. It's going to be 3 times the size of all the other trees there, just not worth the aggro. There's loads of apple trees that are great for it, like Pitmarston pineapple, George Cave. There's lots of different ones that you can put in and work really, really well for it. There are some conflicting information about which are spur bearer and which are tip bearer, so it's best to do your research. I had books, one said it was a tip, I can't remember which apple it was now, and one said it was a spur bearer. So you really have to kind of, don't take the information at face value. Sometimes you just have to, you know, if you've got the space, grow it and see what happens. Okay, it's taken a few hours to do. I've split it over a few different times just to break up the job a little bit, and also it's been a bit of a heat wave. This is the beginning of September. But you can see it's really opened it up. What you can see as well is I've not been too fussy. I will have to go back in winter and alter some of these. I will have to probably prune back the back a bit harder because I haven't really done much on there. And some of these I might lift or lower depending on their vigor and how well they're doing. I think, you know, having this ability is really, really cool with the cordons. Over there I've got a tree that grows it's grown much more branches, and that's because I've left it more upright this year. So it really does make a difference. And you can see it's really opened up the fruit now, and you know, this next month or so is going to be when we, you know, be harvesting our fruit. So it's kind of, you know, really nice to let the sunshine to it. I really like having this kind of broad selection of fruit in my garden. I think it's a really kind of a real key part of my garden for me. It's 30 something varieties down here, lots of different colours of fruit, lots of different shapes. Having cordons is quite a bit of extra work, but the benefits really do pay off. The clippings now, they could be used as tree hay to feed goats and things like that, kept for the winter. These probably just be left in the compost pile and rot down over a number of years and replenish my soil eventually. Summer pruning, you know, the trick with the cordons is not to be too fussy. I've not, you know, looked at every single cut. I have just kind of gone in quite heavy-handed at times. And I think it's important not to get too tied up in it, otherwise you never cut anything. And I've learnt, you know, different things as I've done it over the years. I think this is year 8 or 9. I think one of the key things is just to experiment a little bit, especially with this number of trees. I've let branches grow longer and I've cut them off, and some I've left. I've also, if I wanted scion wood to do grafting, I've left some branches to grow for that. So it's quite handy to kind of keep that going so that I can make my own trees from it. But yeah, I think it works really well in a garden. You definitely get a little bit in these veg beds down here. You have a little bit where they don't grow quite as well as the tree is stealing some of the nutrients, but you can heavily mulch it and you can deal with that as well. I'm lucky here, our soil retains water quite well. It's quite a nice clay base below it. And once the trees get established, I think they really kind of romp away, and I think that's what's happened with these. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.